The point is that if we're not headed in any specific direction, then it really doesn't make a difference. If we have no end goal in mind, it really doesn't make a difference what our future, what direction we take. So, with that said, let's get started. The importance of strategic planning was probably best phrased by Abraham Lincoln. Okay, he said, if we can first know where we are and whither we are tending, we could better judge what to do and how to do it. In other words, without the knowledge of a destination, without the knowledge of our current position, it's very difficult to map out a route. Let's take the Civil War, for example. The Civil War literally broke up the country, literally broke up the United States. Okay, we had the Union on one side, the Confederates on the other side. Abraham Lincoln had a vision. Okay, he had a vision of the future. He knew what the country, he knew where he wanted the country to be. Okay, and it wasn't, his vision, quite frankly, wasn't just to preserve the Union. His vision was the rebirth of freedom. And with the knowledge of the current situation in America, you know, the split between the Union and the Confederates, he not only led the Union to victory, but he successfully reunited the country. So, again, we need to have a future destination in mind, and we need to take stock of where we're at right now, and then we need to go and successfully implement a route, map out a route of where we're trying to go. So these are the topics we're going to be covering. First, we're going to take a look at what it is. Okay, what is strategic planning? Next, we're going to look at what's the scope of the agency involvement. For example, what are the basic prerequisites for a successful plan and successful implementation of the plan? Next, we'll look at what is it expected to accomplish? And finally, we'll look at how is it done. What are the basic methods of strategic planning? So let's take a look at what it is. Okay? The simple definition is the process of determining a company's long-term goals and then identifying the best approach for achieving those goals. So we'll be looking at the future, we'll be looking at the present, and we'll be looking at how do we get from here to there. How do we get from where we're at today to the future, where we want to go? How do we map out that route? The scope of agency involvement. Okay, the participation of the agency and the different aspects of the agency that are needed for a successful strategic plan are as follows. Okay, first we need full and active executive support. Okay, the executive board of any agency are the ones that take responsibility for the agency. They take responsibility for the failures, and they take credit for the successes. They're the ones that decide the course the agency takes. Their support, their active participation is crucial. Next, we need effective communication. We'll have to effectively communicate what tasks we need to accomplish, what goals we're trying to reach. We need to effectively communicate that to everybody that's going to be involved in the strategic plan. Which leads us into employee involvement. Because once we have our plan in place, once we have the roadmap set up, different employees are going to be focused on different tasks that are all set up to help us reach our end goal. Next, we're going to need thorough organizational planning and competitive analysis. We're going to be looking at every aspect of the organization. We're going to be looking at every division, every department, all the strengths and weaknesses that we have. We're going to take stock of where we're at today. And finally, we're going to have to make sure there's a widespread perceived need for the strategic plan. If nobody believes that there's a need for a strategic plan, it's very difficult to get people to change their attitude. It's very difficult for people to buy into where the agency is trying to head. Next, what does it accomplish? The first thing it does is it defines purpose and realistic goals. It'll give our agency a sense of direction. It'll give our agency a purpose. What are we here for? We have it down in the strategic plan. We're trying to get somewhere, and we're going to develop realistic goals to achieve that vision. Next, it'll make the goals known to all the stakeholders, all our sponsors, all our partners, all our volunteers. Everybody's going to be able to identify what this agency's goals are. It'll build consensus about the direction because everybody's going to be on board together and we're all headed towards the same end goal. It'll ensure that resources are directed to priorities. This is one of the biggest benefits of strategic planning. It'll ensure that we direct our resources specifically towards the end goal. We make sure that our resources aren't wasted on non-essential tasks, on non-essential activities, because we know what our goal is, and we're going to focus our resources specifically to help achieve those goals. It's going to establish ways to measure progress because we have goals, we have objectives, we have strategies. We'll be able to measure how successful we are in accomplishing those goals, in implementing those strategies, and getting those tasks done. Now, Henry Kissinger, for better or for worse, one of the most phenomenal accomplishments that he's had in his political career was the implementation of détente. Okay, this was at the height of the Cold War. Okay, the Russians and the Americans, the two superpowers of the world, were on the brink of how should we put it, a mutual destruction. That was more or less the phrase that was being used during those days. Okay, mutual destruction. They were both building up stockpiles and stockpiles of nuclear weapons, and they both were, neither trusted the other and was under the impression the other one was going to, wipe them out. And what he did was he was able to ease those tensions. He was able to negotiate. He was able to negotiate caps on how much what a limit on how many nuclear weapons each country can hold, etc. And in addition, he went ahead and opened up diplomatic relationships with China. Both these things set up the United States with a strategic advantage because now there was first of all, a limit on how much nuclear weapons each country can have, and second of all, there was a new alliance, anti-Soviet alliance of China and the U.S. These successes are phenomenal. I mean, America had no diplomatic relationships whatsoever with China for close to 20 years. And in addition, he was able to negotiate some form of a truce between two hostile nations. How did he do this? His motto was, if we do what is necessary, all the odds are in our favor. So if we can set up a plan that takes into account all the measures that are going to be necessary to help us achieve our goal, all the odds are in our favor. So let's take a look at how strategic planning is done. Okay? There are 3 steps that are involved. The first step is where we're trying to get to. That's a focus on the vision statement, the mission statement, and the value statement. The next step in the process is where are we today? This involves strategic analysis. The third and final step is bridging the gap from where we are today to where we're trying to get to. This is called strategic positioning. So let's take a look at vision, mission, and values. Okay? Let's first take a look at a basic description of what they are. What's the vision statement, what's the mission statement, and what's the value statement? Okay? The vision statement. The vision statement is basically an answer to the question, and we'll look at it in a bit more detail in just a minute. The vision statement basically is an answer to the question, how will my business impact the future? The mission statement is, what do we do as an agency or as a company? How do we do it? And who do we do it for? Value statement is, what values drive our mission and our vision? Why do we have a specific vision of the future? What value do we hope will be implemented with our future vision? What values do we hope will be implemented through accomplishing our mission? And what values do we believe in that are driving our agencies, that are driving